Well, this is certainly a very great honour, and listening to all you distinguished speakers over the last few days, I have a great deal to try and measure up to. But it's an incredible thing for me to stand here and try and share with you. We all have our journeys in life in our various ways, and there's many things happened in my life over the last 15 years that I don't quite understand how they happened. So I've really, the subject of my address tonight is a chapter on miracles. So, if you forgive my notes. Firstly though, Margaret and you, John, particularly the program and the speakers and the spirit and the whole ambience of what's gone on the last few days is such a credit to you, Margaret, and your team. And Tekapo doesn't know how privileged they are to have you in their ranks. But can I take you back to the early 1970s? And that would be years before a lot of you here, and I see, were born. Yeah. Some friends and I had formed an aviation company. God, we've got a lid of a watch to make sure it works. An aviation company at the giant Mesopotamia sheep station over the mountains there in the headwaters of the Rangitata. Can you hear me down the far end there? Good. We called it Air Safaris, and it was to carry out hunting and adventure trips for overseas visitors, and it ticked away a lot. It ticked on its way in quite a satisfying and adventurous way. But back in the early 1970s on Mesopotamia, there were thousands of red deer and chamois and tahr, and the Forest Service at the time accused the station of protecting noxious animals and wanted them all destroyed. So air safaris was not a good thing for a sheep station in those days. So two of us moved across here to Tekapo and started to build an airport out of the tussock here up at the top end of Tekapo, and established a flying operation there, doing trips around Mount Cook and the glaciers. And at the peak of that operation, we had 12 aircraft. We could take 115 people per hour around the Mount Cook and the glaciers, and we were also operating the Timaru Christchurch Air Service for Air New Zealand. So it was all go. But life was good. Tekapo was quite a different little town back then. The permanent population was 375. While our children went to school that had a total number of students of 36 at the primary school. They say that Tekapo has really progressed, but here today, after 43 years, the permanent population has only moved up slightly from its 375 people, and it's only recently that the school numbers has dragged itself back from around the mid-20s to the high 30s again. This town once was just a transit town. It is now a destination. But most of the booming new houses, development and the people in Tekapo are tourism related, and many of them aren't permanent residents. I did a lot of hunting in my youth, much of it for the elusive Himalayan tahr, which lived high in the mountains beyond the head of the lake. We used to bed down under the brilliance of the night sky, midst glacial moraine and I can recall the stars almost leaping out of the sky in those cold, clear nights. It never occurred to me that most people in the world would not have the opportunity of experiencing such a wondrous scene. Around the year 2000, the Mackenzie District Council dedicated a great deal of resources and research into the Lake Tekapo Vision, a document to cover aspirations and planning decisions for the new century ahead. I can vividly remember a person from the University of Canterbury stating at one of the public meetings not to count on Mount John Observatory being still operational beyond about 10 to 15 years from that time, as there were new and better ways shaping up that would eventually be much more productive in exploring the universe. Plus the town development ahead would bring with it light pollution, etc., which would destroy its pristine environment. I recall being quite worried about this prophecy for some deep reason, although the observatory was off limits to the public and had a locked gate. There were lighting ordinances in place, but the district council of the day were barely paying lip service to them, and there was no teeth or dedicated commitment. A few years later, I retired from the flying scene after 33 years and then drifted into a quieter life. Then late one night in 2004, there was a knock on my door, and there stood my good friend, Hede. Hede was quietly pioneering stargazing in New Zealand in the Mount Cook area, without most of us having a clue what was going on in the dark of the night. By that stage, he was providing a service to many thousands of Japanese tourists booked each year to experience the night sky at Mount Cook. And we locals had never heard of such an operation or idea. He would work into the late hours of the night, then jump in his car and roar off from Mount Cook to Christchurch to study astronomy all day at the University of Canterbury. Late afternoon, he would be in his car driving the 4.5 hours back to Mount Cook to begin the evening star watching again, allowing for about 3 hours sleep each night. Thanks to the remarkable Rob Allen, and I think his daughter and son here, of Sordon Station, big station along Tekapo's eastern boundary, Hede was also to start up stargazing at Lake Tekapo. Rob worked on the incredible philosophy, simply, if it was good for Tekapo, it was good for him. He had great foresight and helped Hede very much. Hede came on to our home for coffee that night and explained to me that Professor Yoshiro Moraki of Nagoya University wished to establish a state-of-the-art microlensing telescope on the top of Mount John to look for Earth-like planets. They considered the site to be one of the best in the world to explore the centre of our galaxy and the Milky Way. However, in order for this to happen, Nagoya had to involve a university in New Zealand in order to secure critical Japanese government support. But sadly, no university was in the position to assist due to lack of funds, so the whole project was about to collapse. The next morning, Hede and I jumped in our car and travelled up to Christchurch to seek a meeting with Professor Butler, the Director of Astronomy and Physics at the University of Canterbury. It was just before Christmas and they were very busy, but he kindly gave us time to meet with us. We informed him we would be very keen to help Canterbury, help Nagoya, and would provide funding towards the establishment costs. In return, we would like to have the key to the gate so we could provide public outreach on behalf of the University of Canterbury at Mount John Observatory. That Hede and I would form a little company called Earth and Sky with 4 cornerstone principles: research, education, environment, and a new word called astrotourism, the mixing of science with tourism. I looked up tonight the mission statement that we presented to better understand the nature of the universe through research, education, and an environmental appreciation. Professor Butler was also a great visionary, and through his support and trust, along with the MOA Consortium led by Professor Yock of Auckland University and Professor Muraki-san of Nagoya, the journey of Earth and Sky took its first breath of life. It was agreed we would provide many hundreds of thousands of dollars, we were all full of talk, to the initiative, and these funds would cover the cost of building a computer room for the proposed new observatory, plus the very substantial foundation that was required for the giant telescope. Most of the rest of the facility would originate from Japan. It was a great deal of money in those days, I won't tell you how much. Back 15 years ago, and Hede had to sell his house and his property at West Melton to make his contribution. It was to be cash up front and almost straight away. But we measured up to the commitment, and New Zealand was to get its largest telescope, and we in turn would be given the key to the gate to open up the facility for public outreach on behalf of the University of Canterbury and Nagoya. The Japanese government, meanwhile, agreed to contribute $7.5 million towards the final cost, and that was only because the University of Canterbury were there. It has been a remarkable journey, helped by good people, many of you who are here tonight. Hede and I will never forget the incredible support and encouragement they extended. It is difficult for us to mention all the names involved, as there are so many that helped us get on the pathway, which in a way, as mentioned, has been instrumental in bringing us all together here tonight. I acknowledge 4 real champions of the original Earth and Sky cause: Professor John Hernshaw, Professor Phil Butler, Professor Phil Yock, and Alan Gilmore. Yeah. Alan had and has and always will have a passion for outreach and sharing astronomy. And what he lacks in intelligence and wisdom is made up tenfold over by his wife Pam. They were all part of the original engine room that helped give us liftoff. And we're grateful to the University of Canterbury. They had a lot to put up with, poor Karen Pollard and all, and the many other personnel that accepted us into their whānau. But there is still much work today to do. The early days were pretty difficult. Numbers were very small and our survival pretty tenuous. Our wise old solicitor strongly conveyed to us, and it was strongly, we were mad. It made no commercial sense whatsoever. But like many of you here, we were not involved for commercial gain. We certainly needed to be sustainable, but there were other equally important, deeper reasons, even if we did not quite fully understand them ourselves. Client numbers continued to be low. There were many cloudy nights, as mentioned, and it was a very windy pathway, and the balance sheet unfortunately continually needed much propping up. The miracles. Then one very dark, beautiful night, special night, with the stars in their brightest, Hede spelled out to me while we sat on the top of Mount John, typically with no clients. We New Zealanders took our night sky for granted. And Hede said that we did not appreciate the value of our precision dark sky. I reckon he's a bit annoyed with me. That if they had such a sky in Japan, they would create a park to protect it. Now this hit me a bit below the belt, and I joined Hede on a crusade to try and help better protect our dark sky. Then the next, perhaps the biggest miracle, through Professor Butler and his enthusiasm for the project, he introduced me to this incredible young lady, the Honourable Margaret Austin, who had been New Zealand's representative on UNESCO World Heritage and was a respected senior member of the Royal Society. She'd been Minister of Science and Education, and after I finished bowing to my that was sore. I learned that she was regarded by UNESCO World Heritage as mother because she was had been chairman of all the committees of the World Heritage. She in turn took on the vision with unbounded enthusiasm, which to me was like hooking onto the tail end of a Spitfire as she started to speed around. Suddenly in 2007, our group, with its dark sky inspirations, led by John Hearnshaw and Margaret, were offered a speaking right at the prestigious Dark Sky Conference at Laufaba in the Canary Islands, sponsored by the Spanish government and UNESCO. So off my wife and I went on a jet plane to the Canary Islands. Where's my friend from the Canary Islands? The conference was for 7 days. My luggage arrived just as I was on the plane leaving the airport. We had the opportunity to explain to the many important delegates how New Zealand was one of the few countries in the world to be discovered by the stars, about the ancient marine navigators who found their way to and from New Zealand by using the stars, about Captain Cook being out this way to witness the transit of Venus and happened to stumble on New Zealand, how the Maori planted their crops by the stars, etc., spoke of the stars on our national flag and our national anthem, how we had pristine dark sky with no pollution, no light pollution, a lake that gained its beautiful daytime turquoise colour from the ultraviolet light of the sky, an easily accessible university astronomy research station, open spaces, plus through the foresight of Ellen Gilmore, Nick Ramsey and others, lighting ordinances which protected our dark sky against future light pollution. We challenged UNESCO, World Heritage, that they must look upwards as well as around them when assessing future World Heritage sites, as our true heritage came from the dark sky. I'm told we're all made of stardust. That we in the Mackenzie wanted a World Heritage Park in the sky to better protect our most precious asset for future generations. Incredibly, we received the total support of the 600 delegates, and Carol and I were whisked up to UNESCO headquarters in Paris for 2 amazing days. A year later, at the next World Heritage Committee meeting, a communique arrived from Paris advising that Mount Jolin and its surrounding environs was nominated the pilot scheme for the first possible World Heritage Park in the sky.
Wow.
I'm sure most New Zealanders would go to bed at night not thinking anything had changed. But there was an unbelievable reaction to this announcement beyond our shores. During the following 12 months, we hosted over 50 international documentary teams on Mount John in as many weeks. Such was the excitement of the outside world, where over 50% of their peoples could no longer see the stars. CNN shared with me, told me halfway through that year, they calculated over 100 million people were learning about what we were trying to do with our night sky. Such was the excitement of the outside world. People began to arrive from every corner of the globe, and then, thanks to the incredible initiative, hard work and commitment of the Aoraki Mackenzie Dark Sky Reserve Committee, led by Margaret Austin and John Hearnshaw, we have the largest, most famous dark sky reserve in the world, complete with its lighting ordinances and all. And it's now the envy of so many. And I feel an unsung hero in it all, right from its earliest time, is Steve Butler, the one sitting opposite that very beautiful woman. regarded him as New Zealand's head enthusiast and our leader of the International Dark Sky Association, so far as New Zealand is concerned. A quiet, gentle achiever. Our client numbers increased, staff increased to over 70, but cloudy nights were our Achilles heel. Nights when the many hundreds of people on our doorstep could not see the stars. It nearly broke us as they received their full refunds and we told our many staff to head off home. We tried behind the scene tours to Mount John on cloudy nights with the help of Canterbury and Nagoya when they could not operate, when those teams could not operate up on the mountain. But these were only partially successful. If we had 100 people and the guide spelled out, "I'm sorry we can't see the stars tonight, but we can do other exciting things for you," probably 80 to 90% would cancel and want their money back. But there would be a few that would go the rest of the mile. And yet it was a very exciting thing and privilege to be able to do. And then the little company supplied astronomy staff to the Moa micro-engine project, as it was proving very difficult to fully service the Moa team from Japan. The logistics of sending people over here regularly became too tough. So that was one of our cornerstones, research. How on earth did we ever get there? And here we are, the biggest privilege our staff would have, 4 or 5 of them trained up, to sit in the moa all night in lieu of the Japanese personnel and do their research. We long held the vision of wanting to construct a window to the universe facility to help us be more adaptable and sustainable on cloudy nights. But the pathway was not an easy one, and land in Tekavo was almost impossible to secure. But thanks to the Mackenzie District Council of recent times, we finally made it and were able to purchase the plot along the road here where the Dark Sky project is now built. But how to build a suitable facility with our very humble means was the next challenge. The miracles kept coming. The mighty Ngāi Tahu, which is the Maori race of the South Island, quietly brought their giant waka alongside our little paddle boat and said in a kind voice, "We will join you and give you a hand. We too have a deep passion for the dark sky. It's embroiled in our heritage and our history." Together we approached government for assistance from the Tourism Development Fund, and they in turn noticed the stars in our eyes and agreed to help us on the journey that has finally brought us all together here today. The University of Pennsylvania, who were instrumental in helping establish Mount John in the early 60s, over 60 years ago, then conveyed through Professor John Hernshaw and the Canterbury University that if we could ever build a shelter for their precious and famous old Brashear telescope and restore it from its deteriorated state, that they would donate it to our Associated Tomorrow Skies Charitable Trust. And then, without any funds or any way of getting them, we enthusiastically said we would. So through the chapter of miracles, the shelter has been built, and I hope you've had the opportunity to have a look at that remarkable work. Dallas Pole was leading the restoration for 2 years. He was the head jeweller of the Lord of the Rings, and then he dedicated 2 years of his life in a little shed down at Fairleigh, bringing that great Brashear back to life. One of the most famous Victorian telescopes in the world. I understand it originally found fame over a century ago in helping researchers what they thought were discovering irrigation channels on Mars, and I'm told that's where the word men on Mars came from. Poor men, there was obviously no woman. It tipped the world on its ear. So here we are today as Matariki rises in the east and ushers in this new dawn for our dark sky and all it stands for our children's children, what it stands for. is I feel our children's children will spend their lifetimes looking upwards. For there'll be exciting new boundaries for them in the dark sky, research, exploration, new discoveries, new challenges, our future source of energy, advanced science, education, spiritual callings, mystery, awe, and not least of all, eventually, one of my passions, the sounds of the music of the stars, the harmony and the rhythm, the beat of the universe. For there lies the true beat which is in us all. Where one day people will not only use their eyes, but to use their ears to fully appreciate the mysteries and wonderment of the dark sky above. So much to do, so much more to accomplish. So with our partners Ngāi Tahu, we look to the future along with our partners and friends at the University of Canterbury and Nagoya to promote and encourage public outreach for our unique dark sky, to assist with research and the environment and continue to promote this exciting word, astrotourism, the mixing of science and tourism, and to mix it for the public good, as there certainly is an insatiable passion and hunger out there to learn more about the dark sky. In my view, every human, during their lives, every human on this globe, during their lives will look up to the starry night sky in search of inspiration, solace, reassurance and meaning as we move through this amazing journey called life. As mentioned, we are all gathered here tonight under the Mackenzie dark sky, and we are here as extended family. And you are a very special people in a very special place. A famous old local poet and boundary keeper of centuries gone by. He was a boundary keeper in the remote valleys of this region. Ernie Snow will know, wrote some special words relative to our surroundings. And this is the very early times of European settlement. The vision splendid of the sunlit plains extended, and at night the wondrous beauty of the everlasting stars. And therefore my final feelings, to sum up our pilgrimage for us all here this week, is in the spirit and words of the old Ngāi Tahu ancient Maori. Mo tatou au mo ka ori, a muri ake na. It is for us and our children after us. So go forth and continue to protect our dark sky. Thank you.
I brought Hide with me because I want you to see and honour him. Graeme, come here. You have inspired us, the two of you together, but you have inspired us tonight with the most wonderful history of the last decade. And the two of you, but Graeme, tonight you have truly inspired us with your wisdom, your revelations of all that has gone into what has become one of the 5 most important dark sky areas in the world, which is attracting almost 1 million people a year into the Mackenzie. Nobody could have predicted the success of this establishment and also the partnerships which you have just nurtured incredibly well over a period of time. And it's because you, with Hide beside you, have managed to just inspire and attract people to join with you and to make sure that this project, now between the people of the Mackenzie, the University of Canterbury, Nagoya University and Ngāi Tahu in particular, have been prepared to engage and to make sure that the rest of the world knows what an important part you have played in nurturing the development of this establishment. Thank you very much indeed for having come this evening and given us that lesson in history, which will go down in history as part of the record of this adventure. And it has been an adventure from the start. Thank you very much indeed.
Nobody's there. And suddenly all the people come and it's cloudy. Oh my
I'll tell you something that is a big like this. And they had pictures that it was I would actually curiosity and experience.
But I go to conferences all the time, all over the world. Oh, you went here, you went there. And all I did was sit in a room and almost never do anything where I go. But to take little opportunities.
As long as the connection is still there.
As long as it's there. That's 10 o'clock. Under an hour. Yeah, I'm going to come back for the 2 o'clock section.
Show the video.
Yeah.
Nice.